David's calling in to find some clarification on what Matt thinks about Jordan Peterson's comments that it's not obvious to him that having a system whereby transgressing a woman's rights to bodily respect is enough to protect her against rape, that in order to increase that protection and to make it obvious that she has the right not to be raped, we should somehow get males enraged and springing to her defense. It's a bizarre kind of idea that it's not enough that transgressing somebody's rights is insufficient in law to protect them against that. It's a really weird kind of thing. I actually watched another clip where he's talking about what is consent, and he's muddying the waters. He's making it a kind of grey area in this particular clip that I saw, where he links it all to the sexual revolution, contraception of the 60s, the wild times, where everybody forgot about the rules, and he's sort of saying, he's sort of implying, let's bring the rules back. Let's ban all alcohol, because that's where half the murders come from, and that's where half the rapes come from. And he's saying about that with consent, the reason it's a grey area, that if a woman wakes up the next day and has regret, then in some way you could say that there wasn't consent, because although it was a good idea last night, it's not a good idea now. So he's muddying the waters and making consent a grey area, it seems, almost to somehow excuse the men who are going ahead with sex when consent has been withdrawn. So I make no secret, I disagree with Jordan Peterson on virtually everything he says. I think he's a complete buffoon, and he's taken all his fanboys for complete mugs. But anyway, let's get on with this call and see what David says.
After we discussed it, to say that they want to either defend Jordan Peterson or get clarification about something they haven't seen.
Yeah, so the fact is David's called in and he hasn't actually watched it. It's only like a 1.5 minute clip on Twitter. And Matt did actually post, I searched for it, it's on Twitter. He posted a link in chat and I had a quick look at it. So
that I didn't realize it was linked in chat, but since it was chosen not to show it, and it was chosen to have the audience kind of react,
you don't know how to Google.
The hosts were portraying.
You couldn't have possibly Googled it to listen to it beforehand.
Again, we've had so many callers coming in not having done their homework, and if they knew anything about Matt Dillahunty, they would realize that calling in about a clip and asking questions and critiquing a response to a clip that you admit you haven't seen, you're going to be on very dodgy ground, and you're probably going to be humiliated and shut down.
To look around a little bit?
No, I specifically only called in to basically address the host portrayal of what was said, and that's why I wanted to start off by saying I'm not.
But what difference does the host portrayal matter if you don't have anything to compare it to? How could you possibly suggest that our portrayal was accurate or inaccurate if you didn't see the clip?
I guess that's kind of assuming that I'm attacking or defending Jordan himself.
No. It literally says on the call screener, wants to defend Jordan Peterson or get clarification on host stance. And you just said that you didn't view it because you were calling in to talk about our take on it. But if you don't have any other information, it's like if we had a take on the Gospel of Matthew and you called in to either defend the Gospel of Matthew or to get our further take on it without having read the Gospel of Matthew, what difference does it make? You can't possibly show that we're right or that we're wrong.
Well, I'm not asking if you're right or wrong about what Jordan said. I'm asking if the message and basically the issue that you took with what he said, I'm asking for clarification on that or trying to maybe poke a couple holes in that. So
why are you trying to poke holes in something when you didn't watch the original clip and you clearly didn't understand our discussion about it?
I do believe that when we refer to poking holes in something. It's a pejorative term. It's not something which carries any positive weight. It's what a dishonest interlocutor would do.
Well, I guess for the same reason that a lot of times if somebody calls and tries to say, "Oh, so and so said," and you kind of say, "Well, I don't care who said it. You know, this is about the logic behind it."
Are you dense?
Now, I must say that obviously in some of the videos I've done recently, there's been a bit of a debate. Is it justified for Matt to get angry or isn't it? You know, and I do hope that he does a real slam dunk on this guy because he's asking for it.
Are you dense? Because we specifically talked about what Jordan Peterson said. It is relevant that what Jordan Peterson said is relevant to the discussion and our evaluation of it. If somebody calls in to tell me that so-and-so said, when I say I don't care what they said, it's because their say-so on an issue doesn't have any impact or in any relevance to my position on it. But what Jordan Peterson said is 100% relevant to what we said about it.
But if I was disputing that he said it, or how he said it, or anything about him specifically, I guess I would agree.
So it doesn't matter whether I didn't say you were trying to dispute that he said it. It's what is your fucking point here is, I guess, the better question.
I feel like I made it. I thought I was having a decent conversation with Eve. I was about to kind of just say, all right, well, I guess
you should have done that. You should have quit while you were ahead. And when you'd had that little conversation with Eve, you should have said, well, you know, thanks for clarifying that. It's been an absolute pleasure and delight talking to you. Goodbye. And that would have been it. But, oh, well, he didn't do that, did he?
I was about to
what
say
I
before.
said, do you have a problem? Like, do you disagree with my clarification, or how do you?
No, not really. No, actually, what my follow-up was going to be was just that I think the problem was on my end, that because you said something that kind of made me realize this, is that I think I was thinking that, that's right. You said, oh, it's not like we're saying what he said was the most evil thing ever, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons I called in, is because I do have a problem with what he said for some of the reasons that you stated, but I felt like it was a more nuanced issue, not this big deal. And I thought you guys were saying it was this huge deal. And you're kind of telling me like, oh, no, we're not saying it's this massive deal. Like, it's a problem, though. And I agree, it is.
Well, actually, I think that they were kind of saying it is quite a big deal, what he was saying.
So I guess we're kind of on the same page.
But it is a huge deal, though, still, because we're talking about rape and women being viewed as property value. So to me, while yes, it comes across like he didn't say anything that crazy, when he's saying things that are negating from really valid points that are actually going to help us eliminate that issue, then it does turn into a big deal. So while sure, he says this, to me, the fact that it wasn't that big of a deal actually adds to it being problematic, because he was able to say this little like subtle, like, I wonder, who knows, but it is a big deal. So that's why we're talking about it, because sure, while what he said technically on paper isn't this big, horrible, awful idea, he's not saying I think women should get raped or something like that. He is perpetuating a rhetoric and then not allowing for more helpful rhetoric about something that is a big deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think to the extent the aspects of this that you're saying are a big deal, I think I do agree are a big deal. I don't feel like I'm still disagreeing with you on that.
Okay.
All righty. Well, man, it was super great to talk to you guys.
And yet I went into, I specifically said during the discussion about this, that it wasn't necessarily clear, and even asked Eve about this notion of perhaps he's saying this, or perhaps, did you hear that stuff?
Yeah, I did. And that's why I kind of prefaced my call-in reason with, get clarification. Because I kind of figured after I talked to you guys for a while, I might feel like, oh, we're more in agreement than I thought.
Okay.
Good. I'm glad that we are on this issue. It's important to me that people be on this side of that issue.
All righty. Well, have a great night, you guys.
Thanks, David. You too.
I don't know. I think that if Eve was not so charming and lovely, I think that Matt would have made absolute mincemeat out of this guy. I don't think he's genuine. I think that he was calling in to support Jordan Peterson's dangerous comments, frankly. But that's the way it turned out, and he decided to bail out of the conversation before Matt really held his feet to the fire. So, well, let me know what you think. I've not seen obviously Eve before. I thought that she was really good in the way that she very articulate, presented her point of view very well. Yeah, I also noticed that Matt seemed to be how shall I put it, much more patient and maybe slightly better behaved with Eve present. So who knows? Maybe she should co-host more shows with him. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back again with another clip soon.